it's a liminal space being feral. It's like, it's not quite being wild, but it's not quite being civilized. It's like in this in-between space that feels quite contradictory. And often we talk about feral cats or feral children as these things that used to be civilized, but gone back to this stage where they don't really know what they're doing, and they can't even, for feral children even speak, or just like... and actually in the book, I really challenge this idea of going back to this kind of negative, regressive, primitive state of just like not having language and actually being quite stupid, because it is dumbing this thing that is so important to our everyday life and language, which is the body. And on the contrary, I'm saying being feral is very much reconnecting to a potential in ourselves that we are regressing and sort of pushing away because of our conditioning and society. So how can we feel more free to be connected to that? So how can we trust more that instinct? And for me, being feral is very much about connecting to that spontaneity, but without getting lost in the moment, and sort of actually still connected to awareness and mindfulness. I'm going to read a little extract. Because being feral is consciously opening to that wild side in us we have repressed through conditioning, it is much more than simply being animal. In that sense, it's not an invitation to get loose and wild or get lost in a trance state. It is get lost in a trance state. That was it. Without presence and real awareness of what is happening. Although the state of being feral, through its spontaneity, trust of the unknown, and non-attachment to the ego or thought, does have a quality of being animal. It also requires a conscious act of will and presence. Without choosing to face the constraint of our minds, we cannot release the feral side they repress. You will therefore find in this book that what I mean by feral takes many forms and shapes. It might be being like an animal. It might be being like a plant, shaping with a landscape, tuning into nature's rhythm, moving with your condition, widening your spatial awareness, and many others. It might always seem obvious to you what it means to be feral in some of my suggestions. This is because I'm intentionally challenging a stereotypical idea, an image of the world which is separated from us and culture. I'm inviting you to leave behind what you think you know or what is feral and be open to explore it from a blank canvas with your moving body. Find out for yourself with the freshness of a child's curiosity. Feral is a place to rediscover what has been forgotten in ourselves and of our deep entanglement with the natural world. It is about reclaiming what is already ours. There's this beautiful campaign at the moment, I don't know if people have heard about it, that's called We Are Nature. And it's a campaign to change the definition of a dictionary on nature, because the definition of nature excludes humans from it. When you say nature, humans are not meant to be part of it. And I think that's amazing, and in a culture like us, where language is so important, it feels quite meaningful to say we need to change the definition and to include us. And yet, at the same time, what I'm saying in the book is that that's great, but language is also our body, how we move, how we interact with space, that non-verbal communication. So the words are not even enough. It's also the embodiment of what it means to be with nature. So softening boundaries, start with recognizing that we have separated ourselves from non-humans and that we can change, or we can choose to change this storyline. We can let ourselves be permeated by non-humans and even recognize that we are already permeated by them and everything around us as much as we permeate them. We can choose to become more aware of what I like to call our fuzziness, not have such defined boundaries and edge. Allowing ourselves to be feral is allowing the story we have of ourselves as human to relax. Of course, we can't really do without boundaries altogether. We can't really do without being an ego. We can't really undo the fact that we see the world from a human perspective. This is part of us. We can, however, recognize that the human lens is not the only way to look at and experience the world. And that when we do, it has limits. What we do is shaped by the idea we have of ourselves. By bringing those limits to attention, by acknowledging humility in how we see the world, we can be more than a self-fulfilling story or those limits. By recognizing that this idea of me, of a human species, is a story that I choose to adhere to, and I can change that. I can make a different choice. I can choose to see beyond that story. I can choose to let my boundaries soften. I can choose to be feral, to open to other non-new way of seeing the world and let them permeate me. I can choose to extend my capacity to be in this world in a less rigid, defined, and egoistical way. Give your ego a rest. Let your boundaries become blurred. Let yourself be confused about where you start and where you end. Relax in the fuzziness and this discomfort. We have quite a strongly minded focus idea. Eventually I want to do this and I'm going there. But somehow we can forget this and then this. What I've learned from moving outdoors for so many years is actually, I get a better sense of agency from just really listening and realizing that me, the whole of me, is not just the idea of me, but actually my body, the environment. So if I really want to take action, I need to take all of that in consideration. So the listening part is quite important, to just somehow listening to part of me that I forget often and giving them voice, and that's more the role of me being part of this world.